into the next section. Afternoon became evening, and I sat on the cool marble steps lining the banks of the flowing Ganga River in Rishikesh, India. As the sun began its descent, as the final rays of light danced on the waters, the sound of Vedic mantras filled my ears. I stopped giggling long enough to remember my vow from the airplane to keep my heart open or leave India. To mock an instruction as seemingly useless as the one I had received today might be breaking my vow at the moment it was most needed, particularly as it had come from the mouth of someone revered as an enlightened master, particularly as my breath had stopped when he said it, particularly as I felt more comfortable and more at home in my own skin while sitting in his presence than I had ever felt before. During the evening light ceremony called the Arti, I allowed myself to be swept away by the song, the music, the chanting, by the fire. I allowed myself to be swept away by... Did I read that already? I did. The incense weaving in and out and through each other in a dynamic tapestry of ecstatic prayer. A boy in yellow placed a flaming brass lamp in my hands. Like this, he gestured in what looked like a clockwise movement. Later I learned that the motion for waving this lamp is in the shape of the Sanskrit symbol Om. I faced the river, waving the lamp in clockwise circles until my time was up and the boy took it away. After the ceremony, as the guests began to disperse, I walked calf deep into the river. The moon rose over the mountains and glistened on the surface of the water. The current tugged so forcefully on my legs that I wondered if I would have to give not only my pain, but also my entire body to this river. As the chanting dissipated in the background and the flow of the river tried to wrest my feet from its sandy bottom, I entered a silence so deep it was a place in itself, wrapping me in its arms. In that place of silence, I bent down into the water and carried out Swamiji's instructions. I cupped the river's water in my hands and offered all my pain, all my tears, and all my fear into the water I held in my two hands. You must forgive him, Swamiji had said. Give your anger and grudges to the water, and then pour it back into the river. I stood up to my knees in Mother Ganga until the moon was directly overhead, all the while calling forth every image that had ever caused me pain, that had caused me to dissociate, that had propelled my head into the toilet vomiting. I recalled countless images that had formed the unbearable background of my life. Then, in the midst of these images, I saw him, my biological father, Manny. And from this place of imperturbable silence, I saw not a monster, but a troubled man who had made mistakes. I saw the violence and the sin he wrought upon me as simply mistakes of this disturbed being. I saw a man now far away who could no longer harm me, whose life was just as haunted by these choices as mine. And I saw a man who loved me despite his inability to express it. I saw a man I could forgive. Tears mixed with the water in my hands, and I prayed and cried and prayed and cried, all in silence. These were tears not of yesterday, but of today, tears of release rather than terror, knowing I needed to embrace what is rather than what might have been. I called his image to mind again, stared deeply into my father's eyes and said, "I forgive you." Then I let the water pour from my hands back into the river. "Take the pain," I prayed. "I give it all to you." In the weeks and months that followed, the pain that had coursed through body and mind my entire life lost its grip. I tried recalling memories of abuse to make my body shudder again, to bring back a state of unbearableness within my own body that was more familiar than the peace I was experiencing. I called forth every scene that had triggered terror and dissociation, to no avail. The memories were there, no less vivid than before, but I no longer identified with them. They weren't me. I could no longer dissociate. There was no longer more than one part of myself into which I could split. There was nowhere to go but here, whole and complete. The only split that remained was the part of me that knew the pain had been released, and the part that could neither fathom nor accept concepts of spiritual healing, grace, or the possibility of a life without pain and pathology. The latter tried to shake the former back into victimization, while the part that knew remained quiet and still. Slowly, over months and then years, the knowing has become more pervasive. When I spoke to Pujya Swamiji about the miraculous transformation inside me, and told him that I no longer felt like the same person who identified with this suffering, he nodded and said, "Once the switch is found and the light is turned on, it no longer matters how dark it had been, or what the molecules of darkness were made of, or from where the darkness had come. What matters is that now there is light." Thus we conclude the prologue to Hollywood to Himalayas, the journey of this Western woman to find spiritual grace in the East. Thank you for listening, and we'll continue exploring her journey next time. Namaste.